I'm about to give you a toolkit that will fundamentally improve your writing. It comes from the work of Joseph Williams. Think of his principles not as strict rules, but as a diagnostic checklist for when you revise your drafts. When you're rereading a confusing paragraph, ask yourself these questions. First, who are the actors? Make them as subjects. Second, what are they doing? Use active verbs for those actions. Third, have I turned actions into clunky nouns? That's what nominalization means, like using the word implementation instead of the verb implement. By focusing on these core ideas from Williams, you can systematically transform dense, confusing prose into writing that is clear, graceful, and persuasive. Another essential text is Writing Up Research by Weisberg and Bucher. They point out that when you write your literature review, you're constantly making a choice between two styles of citation. The first is information prominent. This is where the fact or the finding is the subject of your sentence. You see the structure here. The information comes first, and the citation is almost like an afterthought. You use this style when you're establishing the territory, usually at the beginning of the related work section, to report on general trends. The second style is author prominent. Here, the author is the subject of the sentence. Smith, 2020, argues that. As you can see, the author is grammatically part of the sentence. You switch to this style when you're discussing specific, closely related studies, often later in the section, because you need to talk about what a particular researcher did. So, we have information prominent and author prominent as our two main tools. But what if you want something in between? Weisberg and Bucher identify two hybrid styles. The first is information author prominent. Look at the structure. You start with a phrase about the information, like in the field of machine translation, and then you make the author the subject of the main sentence. Smith, 2020, developed a new algorithm. It's a fantastic way to start a paragraph by first establishing a topic, then introducing a key player. The second is weak author prominent. In this case, the author's name or method is part of the sentence, but the citation itself is still in parentheses, separate from the grammar. For example, the algorithm developed by Smith, 2020, improved accuracy. Smith is mentioned, but he isn't the grammatical subject. It's a less direct way to introduce an author's contribution compared to the strong author prominent style. Okay, so we just gone through three citation styles from Weisberg and Bucher. Let's consolidate all of that information right here. So, we have information prominent and author prominent as our two main tools. But what if you want something in between? Weisberg and Bucher identify two hybrid styles. The first is information author prominent. Look at the structure. You start with a phrase about the information, like in the field of machine translation, and then you make the author the subject of the main sentence. Smith, 2020, developed a new algorithm. It's a fantastic way to start a paragraph by first establishing a topic, then introducing a key player. The second is weak author prominent. In this case, the author's name or method is part of the sentence, but the citation itself is still in parentheses, separate from the grammar. For example, the algorithm developed by Smith, 2020, improved accuracy. Smith is mentioned, but he isn't the grammatical subject. It's a less direct way to introduce an author's contribution compared to the strong author prominent style. All right, let's start by looking at a very common application of the information first principle. On this slide, we see the numbered reference system. This is the standard citation format in many scientific and engineering fields. The logic here is to maximize the focus on the information itself. The sentence, the introduction of high-strength, high-flexibility materials has raised the need for a dynamic approach, stands as a complete, objective statement. The numbers 1, 2, 8, 9 act as quiet but powerful support, telling us this is a well-established fact backed by multiple sources without cluttering the text with names. The information is the undisputed hero here. Now, this is a very clean and efficient method, but it's not the only way to achieve an information prominent effect. And that's what we see on this slide. Here, we have the author year format. The underlying rule is identical. The information is still the subject of the sentence, and the citation is grammatically separate. Look at the examples. In the first, transitions. Our abrupt is the central claim, supported by Smith, 1968. In the second, the literature has established few grounds as the main point, backed by Doyle, 1978. So, while the presentation of the source is different, the narrative strategy is the same. Both formats are powerful tools for an author to establish the foundational facts of their research field before they introduce their own specific contribution. All right, so for the last few slides, we've focused entirely on the information-first style, where the finding is the hero of the sentence. Now, we're going to flip that structure completely. Let's talk about the author-first or author-prominent style. As the name implies, and as the diagram clearly shows, the author is the grammatical subject. The sentence begins with the researcher's name, followed by the citation, and then the verb describing their contribution. Look at the examples. Leopold, 1921, listed, and Allen and Reiner, 1, described. In both sentences, the authors are the ones performing the action. This is a very direct and powerful style. You use it when you want to assign a specific idea, discovery, or methodology to a particular researcher. It's also flexible. Notice how it works with both the author year format and the numbered reference system. This is what we'd call the strong, author-prominent style because the attribution is so direct. So that strong style is perfect for highlighting a single pivotal study. But what happens in a literature review when you need to summarize a broader trend or show that multiple researchers have worked on the same problem? For that, we often turn to a more nuanced, weaker form of the author-prominent style. And this slide shows two excellent structures for doing exactly that. The first pattern uses a general term like several researchers as the subject. This keeps the focus on the authors as a collective group, while the specific names are still provided in the parenthetical reference at the end. It's a great way to say, many people have worked on this. The second pattern uses the passive voice, making the topic the subject of the sentence. For example, the physiology of annual plants has been studied by several authors. This is extremely useful when you want to keep the primary focus on the topic itself, while still acknowledging that a body of research exists on it. So, both of these weak forms allow you to group authors and summarize a field, giving you a different narrative tool than the very specific, direct attribution of the strong author-prominent style. Okay, let's connect all these ideas. A literature review typically follows this funnel model. You start broad and then get specific. This means you strategically shift both your citation style and your verb tense. At the start of the funnel, when you're establishing the general research territory, you'll use information-prominent or weak author-prominent styles. Then, as you move to the narrow end of the funnel to discuss specific, closely related studies, you switch to the strong author-prominent style. Notice the tenses that correspond to this stage. The present perfect is perfect for giving an overview of the field, while the present simple is used for accepted current facts. All right, this table from Swales and Feek is the master key to understanding why tense selection is so critical. They argue that it's a direct signal of your stance as an author. Let's quickly break it down. First, the present simple. You use this for claims that are considered currently accepted, valid knowledge. It signals alignment or neutrality. You're stating a fact. Second, the past simple. This is for reporting specific methods or time-bound results from a particular study. It creates distance. You're reporting what a researcher did in the past, not necessarily stating a universal truth for today. Finally, the present perfect. This is your tool for providing an overview of the research territory, for lining up what has been done and identifying gaps. Okay, to wrap everything up, here are the 4 key practical takeaways. First, use present tense for what's considered current and accepted knowledge. Second, use past tense for specific, one-off findings or to create critical distance. Third, use present perfect to summarize trends and introduce the research gap. And finally, always pair your tenses with precise verbs to fine-tune your authorial stance. In short, your citation style, tense, and verbs are the tools you use to tell your research story.